right? There's a lot of fear mongering that goes along with like social media and kind of making people afraid to eat a lot of different things. As early as I can remember, my mom always instilled in us like proper nutrition, and I could probably read a label when I started to read. Like, certainly I'm not saying that like it would cure cancer on its own.
Especially being in healthcare, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was just something I was always aware of, was like thinking about how what we put in our bodies affects our health. So then when I was about 16, my dad was diagnosed with colon cancer. He didn't want to, I think it was culturally, didn't want to pursue like surgery at that point. No, I think that really ingrained in me too the impact that nutrition can have on things like, you know, illness and disease.
Absolutely.
Like, make people more aware that there's the choice, that people can, you know, choose more food to nourish themselves even when it's through a feeding tube.
Yeah. So exciting because I'm talking to a registered dietitian.
Disclaimer. The purpose of our podcast is to give holistic wellness information that doesn't replace medical advice and/or attention. Please sit back, take a deep breath, slow down, and enjoy the show.
Our guest today, guys, is a visionary. She is a practicing registered dietitian who has also shaken up the way we think about nutrition, specifically in the context of tube feeds and formulas. And she utilizes real food into blended food for better digestion and energy. So welcome to the show, Jennifer Akimoto, also known as the Blending Dietitian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. And thank you for honoring us with your time. But finally.
Lives are busy.
Absolutely. So just a little bit of a background. Jen and I work together in the hospital. That's how we met. We're both in the healthcare field. I wanted to ask, Jen, is there a difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist?
Yes.
I always I always get that confused. Can you tell us what the
so it's a pretty standard question I get, and I've been called kind of all things related to nutritionist, dietary.
Right.
But yes, registered dietitian is a regulated term. So not anybody can call themselves a registered dietitian, but anybody can call themselves a nutritionist. So to be a registered dietitian, you've gone through undergraduate degree.
Right.
You've done an internship or a master's program, and then you've written an exam, a regulatory exam, similar like to nursing, to become a registered dietitian.
Right.
And then we have a college that regulates our practice. So that's kind of what distinguishes us versus a nutritionist, that it's not a regulated term. So
they can claim
call themselves.
They're a nutritionist. Yeah. But would the dietitian then cover like the nutrition aspect of what a nutritionist would do?
Yeah, so we would be I would say all dietitians are also nutritionists.
Yes,
but nutritionists are not all dietitians. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So exciting because I'm talking to a registered dietitian. Like, as much as we work together, we don't really talk about a lot of personal, life and all that. Could you share with us, personally, before professionally, a little bit about you that you can share?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a wife, a mom to 2 kids. So I have an 8-year-old son and almost 11-year-old daughter. So they keep me pretty busy outside of work. I have a very supportive husband that, I wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that I do without his support, for sure.
Life-changing, right?
Yeah. So definitely have a reliable, active partner in that. We spend a lot of our kind of outside time away from work, like playing outside, doing things like camping, and we love camping, and we get into some fishing and some golfing, and my kids are really into sports in the summer. So
was this something that you guys did before having kids, or was it always something like being outside? And you've always done it? Because I find that, like, for example, me and my husband, we're very busy 12-hour shift people, and I find that like really dedicating those times so that it's part of your life is so important.
Yeah.
Versus like, what are we gonna do for the weekend?
Right.
Like I always find, like do something already embedded in your schedule. That way,
Yeah, I
it's
think
part of your
things
life.
change when you have kids a little bit, and
Yeah.
you get a little bit away from some of the things socially that you might have done, but kind of that core, like, sharing that those values with your kids in terms of like we always liked camping, so we do that with our kids, and we both we met on the golf course, so we instill that in our kids too, and they enjoy how they doing those activities with us.
And also part of because I follow you on Instagram, and part of the reels that I think one of the reels that I saw that you made was how you ended up, having this passion of yours, which we're gonna talk about more. Do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit how you got into this? I know there's something happened personally that led you to.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
it took me some time maybe to kind of share a lot of the background. I don't know if you're speaking about my dad and the history there. I think what brought me into dietetics, like as early as I can remember, my mom always instilled in us like proper nutrition, and I could probably read a label when I started to read. Like it was so ingrained in kind of like growing up and
Like Googling stuff like, what does that folly, whatever.
Yeah.
You just
it's like it was just something I was always aware of, was like thinking about how what we put on our bodies affects our health.
Absolutely.
And packing my lunch and making sure it was balanced. Like she always kind of had that ingrained in us. So then when I was about 16, my dad was diagnosed with colon cancer. And at that time, he didn't want to, I think it was culturally, didn't want to pursue like surgery at that point. And so they decided to change our diet as a family dramatically.
Right.
And we all became vegan, and my mom did all her research and finding, all the like superfoods to support his health and wellness with his cancer. He, I think that really ingrained in me too, the impact that nutrition can have on things like, illness and disease.
Absolutely.
Certainly I'm not saying that like it would cure cancer on its own,
Especially being in healthcare, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think that appreciation and like the foundation of like what you put in your body and the effect that it can have on all those systems and your health overall.
And I do have a question about that. If say I'm in the grocery store right now, do you have top 3 things in a label that we should absolutely avoid? Name a few.
Dietitians are probably all going to say, well, it depends.
Right.
So, different people have different health goals, right? So you might be looking at calories overall, or maybe you're like focused on sodium if you have kidney disease or high blood pressure.
Correct.
Maybe you're looking at the total fat content. So it really kind of depends on what your goals are.
Let's just say like stuff that are carcinogenic, maybe.
So this is kind of like maybe a more heated conversation.
Maybe not that one. Maybe something that you can just think on top of your head that like should be avoided, like generally.
Generally, like we should always be watching for, I think in general, a lot of us have too much added sugar and added sodium. And so like in general, that's probably something we could be more aware of. Okay. Personally, I always try and, minimize the kind of like additives and stuff that I have in my food, but, conveniences and all those things that go into our food choices, like it always has to be something that you think about or that goes into all those decisions. So it's kind of like loaded questions when people ask, what do I eat or what do I avoid? Because it always is kind of like a wholesome picture.
It's definitely a lot. And I feel like it's another episode just talking about all these ingredients that you should avoid. But give it
like to go back to kind of social media and stuff like that, right? There's a lot of fear mongering that goes along with like social media and kind of making people afraid to eat a lot of different things. And so, there's nothing I would say like you can't eat unless you're allergic to it or had some sort of specific intolerance. That there's a lot of ways we can make things fit depending on all those other factors.
Right. So it's better that somebody consult with you because again, like generally speaking, it's so hard to, generalize everybody. Yeah. Because everyone is so different. But I know you mentioned, for convenience, we have all these foods available for us. How difficult is it to just have a wholesome diet, like time considering, prep considering? Like, is it that hard to prep a healthy meal for your family?
I guess that goes back to too, like the way that those values or what your values are around food, and certainly a lot with even like accessibility issues, financial constraints that people have too, that all plays a role. I was brought up, like I said, to kind of like be mindful of that. And so it is a value of mine to spend time preparing food. And like you said, just kind of like building your routines around that, right? So that's not to say that I never use convenience foods or eat takeout, but it's kind of just like, right? Like life happens and you're going to, but kind of your like foundation is, if your foundation is to kind of, that's what you value, then that's what you're going to spend your time doing, right?
Correct. And then going back to your mom, was she always she just studied veganism, or
no, it was
a dietitian herself?
No, no. She
okay.
was kind of ahead of her time. She actually worked in like software.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really different.
Really different for her time too. But she always just kind of was aware, I think, I think for her time, like I said, I don't think it was something that was always like so ingrained, but when he did get cancer, we became vegan, and she really was all about, because she already had that kind of, affinity to find out more, that she did her best to know that we were doing it properly, that we weren't just like eliminating meat and like not substituting it with proper alternatives. Yeah. So yeah, she kind of, because that was at a point when I was 16, I was deciding what to do as a career, and to kind of go back to your original question, like that kind of was what sparked me. I found out, in guidance or whatever from the guidance counselor that's kind of an option. And I really think it, spoke to, like, I liked life sciences, like biology, chemistry, those kinds of things, as well as kind of like that psychological, social aspect of it too. It kind of tied everything together nicely for what I was interested in. Yeah.
That's amazing. Because that was my next question. Like, so it did prepare you to be that person. And if you don't mind me asking, was your dad, you said something about culture, and I noticed your last name.
Yeah. So my dad is Japanese.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and my mom is Canadian.
Got it. And with Japanese, it's very much cultural, when it comes to deciding with their health.
Yeah. And I think, I think he might have ignored it a little too long. And so I think definitely more awareness that way. And had I, it had happened when I was young and I didn't know much. Had I known then what I know now, maybe things would have been different for how he approached, or we approached his care as a family. And he did end up passing away. But that really kind of set that foundation for food and health connection.
It's like an evolution of yourself. Like you found yourself from that experience. I'm not saying,
I think just kind of like reflecting too. Like I wouldn't say like at that point in time.
Yeah.
That
you don't know,
right? Knew that's kind of like how that was going to impact me. But reflecting back, I can say that definitely like had an impact on what I do now.
And I feel like too, where there's so much pressure especially with the younger population, how I need to know my passion now. I need to know what I want now. I feel like that's not a fair.
I'm still
like life, something will happen, and then you're like, oh my god, this is what I need to do. Like it could be on your 50s, it could be on your 60s. Like it's a lifelong thing, right?
It is lifelong for sure,
and we continuously evolve. Well, thanks for sharing that. So we've spoke about what led you into this career. Would you then say that this is your passion? But I know you've said you're still trying to figure out.
Find my passion. I think I'm getting closer to finding my passion, and maybe that leads into a little bit about more of what I'm doing now. People talk about kind of like their side hustles. Like we work full time, or I work full time in the hospital. People talk about their side hustles, but I really call it my side passion.
Love it.
Because it is something I'm passionate about, and so getting into supporting people with blended tube feeding, kind of ties back to that value of like food. And so I'm not saying like, there's lots of people that thrive on formula through their feeding tubes as well. So it's not about, trying to steer people away from that, but I just kind of maybe want to talk more or like make people more aware that there's the choice.
Correct.
That people can, choose more food to nourish themselves, even when it's through a feeding tube.
Do you think that has an effect with them going home with Resource 2.0 versus knowing that, yes, I'm blending this food at home to give me that nutrition? Do you think there's much mental impact just knowing the difference between the two?
Yeah, for sure. I think it gives people control back, and more of that kind of inclusion at mealtime. There's so many benefits that are even outside of the direct nutrition that people get from food.
Right.
That more like, we are surrounded by social situations surrounding like our food is like gathering and so many of those like belonging and those types of feelings, and people that enjoy food and that whole experience around food. So even though you're not able to actually eat it, but you can still experience that food. You can smell it, you can prepare it, you can you can choose the food that you're eating. So it brings a lot of that aspect back to kind of like, I don't want to say normalize, but kind of like demedicalize the idea of tube feeding. And it's just kind of like, it's just a skipping your mouth to your stomach and is another way to get food or nourishment. So
instead of just seeing a beige
liquid can of formula,
no, I get what you're saying, because still you're stimulating your vision with colors, you're stimulating your smell, and you know that there's nutrition.
Like that's part of eating too, right? It's like experiencing those colors, those smells, that togetherness and social aspect.
Even though you can't taste it, unfortunate. Right. We'll talk about that more. Okay, the blending dietitian. How and when and what clicked? How did it start?
It was like, it's like I make a weird confession at that, like, I can't believe I didn't think of it or was accepting of it sooner. Because over the years, like, I've worked in the hospital for like almost 20 years. All my patients on the head and neck unit are on, like, not all of them, but a lot of them are on tube feeds or joined home on tube feeds, right? And so it was something over the years that people might ask about. And then it might have been something, that we would say, oh yeah, when you get home, you can do more of that. It's not something we can do in the hospital, and I hope that changes.
I know. Are you gonna start a petition?
I think it starts with like just like awareness. There's more and more research. Like it's really kind of at the beginning stages of having more support, and sort of like evidence-based is what people, practicing in healthcare really want to see. But people have been doing it. It's actually like before there was tube feed formula, there was food through feeding tubes. Like when the feeding tube itself was first like started and invented, people used food. Now we go back to like, I don't know, the 1800s where people were using like wine and kind of, some like broth and that kind of thing. And it wasn't until like the 60s and 70s when we came into more industry that we discovered formulas, because it was standardized, it was shelf stable, it was convenient, it was sterile, it could sit on the shelf, and like whenever you needed it was ready. For hospital, it made things easy. And so that's when really people got into institutions, and everybody got into using formulas and so all those things. And so we're kind of getting back to how we were, and the benefits of food. So it was like, I don't know, maybe like going back like 5 or 6 years ago when I had this patient, and then her daughter was taking her home to care for her, and she was going to have to be on tube feeds. She had like an extensive tongue surgery, and we knew that she needed to be on feeds only. And so the daughter came to me. I was just like really, really passionate about the idea of giving her mom blended food.
Right.
And like I said, I wish I thought of it sooner, because something like just like a light bulb, sometimes when a light bulb just goes off, and it was like, well, yes, like of course.
Yeah.
Of course we would want to do that, right? Like, and then to go back to kind of like where it all started for me, and supporting, those difficult health journeys with food.
Right.
And so, it helped her kind of like navigate that, and really found out that there wasn't really much out there to support her.
Okay.
And so that's where my kind of, like light bulb moment. I was like, oh, well, I need to be doing this. I need to be helping people. I've always loved tube feeding. It's always been part of my like daily, daily practice in the hospital, is helping people on tube feeds. And it's just something I'm really passionate about. And so, like the two just went together naturally for me. And right. So I started my blog and, my social media, and kind of getting more awareness and information out there.
Yep.
And like just
that's
kind of from there. Yeah.
How long ago? Because we've worked together for how long were you in?
I mean, I've been there for 20 years.
Long. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I've only been there for almost 3 years. So when did approximately?
Probably around then.
Time.
I mean, it's something like it's something I'm doing outside of my full-time job.
Right.
So it's like a side passion project that I really, do when I can spend the time, but hopefully, it continues to grow.
Oh gosh, yeah. And there's so much research, and there's so much like, just like preparing for, the end goal.
So I'm starting to help people more like at home, doing that.
Okay.
And,
so you're getting clients now.
And I have like a course out there for people to teach them at home how to do it.
That's wonderful. I love it when, I don't know how spiritual you are, but when the universe just gives you this like key, or like this opening where you're like, this is what you're gonna do.
And it just I don't know, like I said, it was funny how it would just everything to that point just kind of came together and clicked.
Right. Interestingly enough, when I found out about your page, I was like, is this Jen Akimoto? I guess I didn't know. Like, and I thank you for following the Camo Talks, because I was so excited when I saw your page, and I'm like, there's no way this is for.
I know, I love you, and it's just like, it's funny because you work alongside people, and like, you discover these things like yourself, like doing this on the side too, like
I know,
your passion too,
and I love it. And you know what? Sometimes there are days when you're like, oh, I have no energy for it, but then you always go back to it, and you need that. You need that sometimes.
Yeah, it fills you up again, right?
It fills your
cup. It can get hard sometimes, but
do you think? And I think that we already spoke about this with the quality that it gives to people, the quality of life that it gives to people. Have you witnessed this with your clients?
Yeah. So I mean, a big reason why people choose to do it is kind of like the perceived, like being more natural and wholesome, but it also comes with a lot of health benefits in terms, like a big one is just the GI tolerance. So you've probably experienced, right? A lot of people in hospital.
Nausea
and reflux and, diarrhea, maybe less so constipation, but all those things, right? That's another big reason that people really experience. And sometimes like right away that people say they start even just a little bit of food. It doesn't have to be like all or nothing either. It doesn't have to be like you're doing all blended food all the time or all formula. Like there's lots of like gray area in between there to kind of work with combinations. But people experience those benefits like right away sometimes. That their diarrhea improves, that they have less reflux. So like health wise, and we're getting to know more and more just kind of about the gut microbiome and the diversity in your diet. So instead of having like the same formula all the time, you get that variety of food and nutrients that you would when you kind of eat like, eat exactly the same thing every day. I mean, sometimes we get in our routines, but eating the same exact meal, 3 times a day, that doesn't come with any variety. So people experience that benefit too with the variety in food. And, we see that. There's more and more research coming out too about like, gut diversity and beneficial.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Like the gut is like our second brain.
Right. So, like the same kind of concepts, like, people's digestion may be intact completely after their stomach. So all those same principles apply, right? And so, I mean, sometimes people are on tube feeds for different reasons, and those, it's not always an option for people if there's like malabsorption or different anatomy, that kind of thing. But for a lot of people, it brings a lot of benefits.
So I didn't know this, but with the traditional feeds that we're giving to our patients, it actually builds this kind of intolerance too, right?
Well, some people just are intolerant to, there's different carbohydrates sometimes that are in our formulas, and some people tolerate it fine for like a long time. People can live on the formula too, right? I think it just offers, an option for people that maybe have more intolerance or want to have some of those different aspects that we talked about in terms of like bringing food and that experience back to, parents will say too, because it was really driven by parents wanting to give food to their children on tube feeding, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so that's where a lot of the research really came from, is more like parents giving their children food. And so it's driven a lot by that, and just that kind of like sense of normalcy, but also control over something for people that are maybe going through a lot of, health concerns and, children with disabilities. And you have so many other things going on around like therapy and, dealing with like, trachs and other medical complexities, that food is kind of one of those things that if you can use food, it kind of takes some of that, like you feel more like a parent, that's something you can give your child. Yeah. So
gives you a sense of control in a way. And plus, like, you're giving your kid all this nutrition that probably a formula, I don't know exactly what a formula would have, but I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, formula has nutrients, right? It's just kind of like what it's made up of. And it really is just kind of like the same. And like I said, like, I'm not bashing formula, because like I said, people live on formula too.
Right.
But it just kind of like offering some variety and some of that like normalcy and food experience back to tube
feeding.
Yeah.
So you also have, now that you mentioned, you also have children that are going through this as well. And this is a little bit of like off topic, but as a mom, what do you think are the challenges and, with running the business, and what has running the business also taught you in terms of being a mom?
So just business.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to balance. And sometimes there's, I think as moms, we have a lot of guilt sometimes when you're not spending the time or doing the things that you want to be doing as a mom. In the end, like, I'm pursuing this too, to, be able to have that sense of accomplishment in my own for myself, which then helps to like be a better parent, to be a better, right? Like to fill your own self up. So it's hard to sometimes to balance all those needs, your own needs, your own desires to like accomplish certain things with like being a parent. But I think it's also like setting a good example too for, pursuing your dreams, your passions. Not gonna lie, it is hard to balance all that all the time, right?
But you have a supportive husband, so that makes it really, easier. Not easier, but maybe
probably easier. Yeah,
easier. So so you mentioned the challenges, and then the rewards as well. What about as a woman? What do you think what would you say is the most important thing that should be prioritized when it comes to women's health and wellness?
I think
not necessarily like patients or clients in tube feeds, but just women in general when it comes to,
I think,
nutrition
and wellness. I mean, it's hard because we are, to generalize, right? We're like, and to be in healthcare and a woman, right? Because we kind of probably got into it because we are like providers, nurturers. We want to take care of people. We want, and so we do a lot of that at work, and then you do a lot of that at home as a mom, right? Too.
It's like the job never
ends. Right. So I think sometimes it's hard because mom guilt, but also like to try and still think about not losing yourself and taking care of yourself so that you can take care of others. And I'm honestly not always the best at that.
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
No. What do you think women should prioritize? Or what do you prioritize?
It's like all these balls in the air all the time.
Right. Well, it's hard to kind of...
It's kind of like, and if your house is clean, then, but then the kids are, something's always
not 100%.
right.
If you're type A.
know the answer, Abby.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. It's an ongoing
maybe
challenge. Sleep. Exercise is something I struggle with making sure because I know deep down that like when I can move my body, when I can do exercise, that I feel better. Right. I feel like I know my mind is clearer and that I have more energy.
I love that answer. Movement is everything.
Movement.
It honestly, you don't have to
struggle.
I know it is so hard, but actually I was watching the podcast by, Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
I think she said something about working out is like 1-2% of your 24 hours. So like, why not just have that as a non-negotiable and just get it out of the way?
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done.
I know. I think it's like working it into your routines. And I don't know, I read Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read that book, right? Yeah. So like tying it to something and all those ideas around, I think I probably need to go back and read that.
We should
read it again. But yeah, so working in habits and routines to kind of support your wellness, your self-wellness too. Because we give a lot, right? As moms, as healthcare providers, we give a lot to other people.
To really just knowing what you need and
but like you said, like you have to make it a part of it, like your your routines, yourself,
your habits. No, I love that. I love that you said movement because I find that like sometimes I dread moving. I walk long enough in the hospital for 12 hours and then you're
up the hall, down the hall, to the room, back to the nursing station. Yeah.
It's like, I already did mine.
How many steps have I done today? Yeah. But then kind of like gives that opportunity too, like for your mind to kind of be clear and...
It's very mindful.
Sometimes you get your best ideas when you're like walking or...
Yeah. Instead of like being in your creative space and you're like, nothing is clicking, like nothing is downloading in my brain.
Maybe I need to get like a walking pad.
Yes. A lot of people have that.
Yeah. Although I don't know how you can... I still don't know how people like walk and
I know
type at the same time or...
I feel like I'll fall or something. Something will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of my creative ideas too when I'm showering or cooking.
Right.
Sometimes when I'm doing more mindful things, like working out is very mindful, cooking is very mindful, meal prepping is very mindful, right? Like it's when you're in the present, I feel. Because we're always like...
We're always trying to think of what's
next.
What's on my to-do list, right?
It's awful. And
so like slowing down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's my mission too with the Camo Talks is to have that mindfulness movement. Because the Camo Talks is so odd in terms of the wellness and what I want to focus on, but I feel like in this day and age, mindfulness is like so hard to achieve.
It's hard.
There's so much anxiety.
It's so busy, and there is a lot of anxiety.
There's so much anxiety. Like I have anxiety when I'm in Canada. When I went to Mexico for a week, I was like, I didn't realize I can be mindful.
Right.
You're not worrying about what to eat.
What am I having for dinner? And I'm going to with my body. And when do I have to work next?
Yeah.
Slowing down.
So in that realm of your vision and your mission, what would be the message specifically to? Can I say tubies?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
What would be your message for the people seeking support and who are wanting to explore this support?
Yeah, I think I'm hearing more positives. I know over the years, like in some of social media and different talks, that people have said they've been kind of like fired by their healthcare team because they've wanted to pursue blended tube feeding.
Is this in Canada?
In Canada, in the US a lot.
Oh, wow.
that probably less so in Canada, which is good.
Good.
Not to like
Yeah.
dish on American, but yeah, just kind of like making people feel more supported. And I think as dietitians, it's never something we learned about in school, actually, unfortunately. So I want to continue to kind of grow the awareness, the kind of acceptance, the willingness to support people or be open to finding people to help people, because, you know, you may not know about it yourself, but I think, you know, one of the goals for my page, for my website, is to kind of just increase awareness so that people know that it's even an option for them, and just maybe more of to like for healthcare providers too, to like how to support.
Correct.
And even though you may not, but there's people out there that can. And I think it's just more about, like I said, awareness and options and choice for people.
And being open.
Right.
Like, I feel like we're so caught up with that traditional way of healing. I feel like there's so much resources out there if you just do the right research and just being open with healing, right?
I think it's hard sometimes in the hospital because we're kind of like constrained to certain like policies and that kind of like
rules and
regulations that kind of oversee, which is important too in a hospital setting. When people get home, some of those things, right? You're in your home setting, and some of those things can kind of go away, and you know, you're left more to make your own choices. But I think that people need to be supported, and you know, going back to kind of like all the social media and stuff out there, that, you know, there's a lot of good information out there too.
Oh, but it's overwhelming.
And kind of sorting through like what is actually legitimate and what's not. And so my goal was to be kind of like a, you know, like a good evidence-based person that was visible, that was out there, that was like inclusive and just like spreading awareness. And
I love the evidence-based part.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard. I think healthcare professionals have maybe been like hesitant to support people because there's not a large body of evidence. But, you know, the people have been doing this. Right. There's actually a study, and I forget the stat, but it's like, you know, 50% of people are doing it. And like, you know, 30% of those aren't even telling you that they're doing it. So why are we like making people feel like it's so taboo? And then they're going home and they're not being supported, and they're kind of just doing their own thing. Like, I think it's better that we create an environment where people can feel open or, you know, supported and not shamed for doing those things. Absolutely. Just really like talking about it. And then that kind of helps to make the best plan of care, right? If we all are kind of aware of what's out there, what you're doing, what you want to do as a person.
I do want to ask you for the non, you know, out of your clientele type, what's the best, like, for women, right? Like, what do you think? You know how there's keto and then there's veganism. I'm not saying they're wrong, but what do you think is a more sustainable way?
I think it's just, honestly, it's kind of a boring answer, right? But it's like, what is sustainable? So all these kind of fads that come and go and are like extremes, right? You're being asked a lot of the time with these extreme diets to eat some way that you can't sustain longer term.
So having like a balance.
It really comes down to like balance and like sustainability and ingraining, like we talked about, like movement, right? It's like ingraining that into like your routine and like your values, because I'm a dietitian, and it's always like, oh, we show up at a party and we're like the diet police. But then it's like, oh, well, the dietitian's eating chocolate cake. Like, it must
you're not that, right?
No, because but not, I don't think, like, I mean, if you came to the dietitian office at the hospital, like there's chocolate, there's cookies. Right? Like, it's just about a healthy relationship with food too, right?
It's very much like going back to your relationship to it too, which what you said is, because I feel like it's constant work too. It's not like I'm gonna have a good relationship with food. It's like so much
because a lot. I think probably a lot of like even my mom being like ingraining in me like reading labels and stuff is because she grew up in like diet culture, right? Or like and then in that era, it was like everybody is like doing all the fad diets and Weight Watchers and grapefruit and whatever. It was just like all the it's like fad and trends, but really what it comes down to is like you're having a healthy relationship with food and that it's okay to have cake or takeout or chocolate, and it's all part of your healthy eating,
part of your mental health too.
Right, I feel like exactly, but it goes back to like how food is more than just nutrition, right? It's like the experience of food. It does make you feel
like your soul, right? If I have that chocolate cake, my soul just feels so happy.
Yes, and that's part of it. So, and we touch like guilt, or that we like assign like, oh, I just had this chocolate cake and then I need to go for a run. Like,
you can't
we have so much of that diet culture that of course we still need to be aware of what we're eating and how we're eating, but it doesn't need to have like so much like guilt attached. I kind of like on a totally side.
I'm gonna need you to come back for another episode just to talk about this guilt and childhood and trauma and all that.
Like
it's
not
huge
there, but it's huge because there's so much diet culture.
Yeah, and it's like,
and it's hard. It's ingrained in everything.
I feel like it's still there. Like even with social media, it's like, what is that girl doing and what is that person doing? And I'm like, how come I'm not doing that? It's not one size fits all.
Right.
Like everyone's lifestyle is so different, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the point too. It's like people that blanket tell you to like eliminate whatever, or that those are kind of like more of the fads.
Yeah. I do want to say though, when I was on a gluten-free diet. Bread, right?
Yeah,
I felt good.
Yeah,
but it wasn't sustainable.
Right.
Like you go back to your comfort food, and that.
So then it's like, like if you feel better, then like looking at then how much is like okay for you,
right?
And that maybe it doesn't mean eliminating it entirely.
Like still have it,
right? It's anyway, but it's all those things, right? It's all individualized.
Absolutely. Right? Now, I almost forgot to ask you, how can they enjoy their cake?
Oh yeah,
yes. Tell me.
So I mean that's part of like traditions and culture that blended tube feeding is so great, because really like you can literally have your chocolate cake, add some liquid to it, blend it up, and you're able to have chocolate cake on your birthday, right? Like it's part of those celebrations, those traditions too, that just because like you have the control, it doesn't mean that right? Like it's it's that inclusion and the ability to take part in your birthday celebration, even though you're on tube feeds and you eat differently, right? Like,
because can you imagine like you're seeing,
like you're kind of like, imagine you like blow out the candles and then it's like, okay, here
you can't even have your own cake.
Of course, there's, I'm not gonna like, you're not tasting it, right? So there's that part, but kind of just that feeling of like your celebration, inclusion, traditions and culture.
Absolutely.
That are.
I would be happy to have my cake. Like it's my birthday,
right? I know.
So you can have your cake and eat it too. Not physically eat it, but you can.
Yes.
What is next for you, Jen?
Oh, I'd love to continue just like working on seeing where this goes. It's something I'm definitely passionate about. I want to continue to grow awareness for tube feeding in general and kind of acceptance and more awareness that way, because a lot of the time I think people think about tube feeding like it's just dying people in the hospital that are on tube feeds, right? But there's people walking around all the time,
and we don't even know.
You don't even know. You wouldn't necessarily know, right? So just awareness for that it's not really like the stigma of like dying, that healthy people live on tube feeds, and just that we can support that,
changing the narrative, and just
giving more options and empowering people to, know those options and how it can fit.
You're certainly an inspiration for a lot of people, and I can't wait for other people to find out their dharma. I don't know if you know what dharma is.
A little bit.
Life purpose. Yeah, I think is it in Sanskrit, Hindu is, we all live in this life, and a lot of people live this life not knowing their dharma. which is like the reason for being and why you're here. So I'm glad that, and I'm sure there's
Maybe
going to
on
come.
that path a little bit.
Yes, you're on your way. And when can people find you in your social?
So
The link down there.
yes, I have a website, theblendingdietitian.com. So it's 2 T's. Some people want to spell dietitian with a C.
I did that when I messaged him. Like Jen probably saw that when I went.
blendingdietitian.com, and then most active in terms of socials on Instagram at the Blending Dietitian.
Yeah.
And a little bit on Facebook, but mostly on Instagram and my website. You can find me there. I'm always open to getting messages. I love to hear kind of like success stories, what people are doing, questions, comments.
Yeah, I like
to kind of get that feedback because, I have that professional background, but I'm always learning from, practical,
we're always
people out there
learning.
doing, right? And I'm, humble all the time. So totally love to engage with.
And I feel like we're always learning. Like
Totally. I mean, we're
Never-
in healthcare, right? It's like lifelong learning.
like 20 years in profession, you're still, oh shoot, I didn't know.
I know.
You're still learning.
Yeah, to be like humble about that too.
And
right?
that's
It's
fine.
like I'm not going to know everything, but I want to like learn together. And so,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here.
hey, it's been fun.
It is, guys. If you haven't already followed Jen Akimoto, it's the Blending Dietitian with a T.
2 T's.
2 T's. In Instagram, and you have Facebook as well.
I'm on Facebook as Jennifer Akimoto, and on my website at the website.
No YouTube, yeah.
No YouTube.
Soon.
Yeah, maybe I'll break into
Maybe you'll start a podcast.
that. You inspired me.
Again, guys, thank you for subscribing with the Camo Talks. Please follow, like, and subscribe. It helps us build our community. And if you have any suggestions for our next topic, we are always open in receiving feedbacks and suggestion of what you might want to hear. Again, thank you for watching and have a good day. Bye.
Yay, that was.
My hands are so cold.
I know, mine too. Probably like clamp.